Welcome to Mission Minded, the podcast where we explore outside-the-box thinking in carrying out Christ's Great Commission. On this week's episode of Mission Minded, we are joined by Director of ITEC Ecuador, Galo Ortiz. Growing up on the edge of the Amazon rainforest in Mera, he has seen mission work change through the years. Galo's grandparents worked with jars in the 1950s and assisted with logistics for Nate and Marge Saint as they worked with MAF. Galo has worked with the ITEC team since 1999 to train and equip Christ followers in South America. Now here's your host, Jim Tingler.
Hi and welcome back to the Mission Minded Podcast. I'm Jim Tingler, and today I am joined with a special guest, Galo Ortiz. Galo, welcome.
Hi, Jimmy. Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
So, for people who don't know you, there's a lot that we want to get them up to speed on, but I think one of the most important things for people to know is that you're a grill master. So
I wouldn't call that.
Yeah, you live in Ecuador to start, and you're the director of ITEC Ecuador, and I'll let you talk a little bit about that in a minute. But tell us a little bit about your history as getting into grilling and your passion for that.
Well, when I was here, I think in the States, I was 19. That was 99. I got into the, meat grilling world through some friends in Miami. And I went back to Ecuador and I'm going to do this. But I just got the meat and I put it in the grill, and you couldn't even bite it. It was so hard and tough, and I'm like, what? Why this doesn't work? And I start, learning that it's not just putting it on the grill. It's you have to see the meat. You have to be you have to see the color of the meat. You have to check for marble, how much fat has on it. And then the right grill, the temperature, the charcoal, how it needs to work, and needs to be in a way that doesn't flame. You always, if you want to have something that is good, you cook it slow. It's not, it's not an easy and fast thing. It's not fast food. So I kind of like hard stuff. So it took a few years to be able to, even to go to the meat market. And in Ecuador, most of the meat is bulls. And there's a lot of muscle, no fat. And that's not really good for grilling. But it's a good business because you sell more meat, and fat, you don't sell fat. So when people see a really good cow for grilling, they say, that's terrible. So sometimes I will get calls from the meat market lady and said, hey Galo, there's one of these terrible cows for you. And it will be just perfect. So I even learned to get the cuts off. But the biggest thing a lot of people think it's that, the griller likes meat and likes to eat meat. But it's not the truth. And a lot of grillers will share this idea, and is the time that you can spend together with people and just see these people enjoying something that you're doing. And just, I just love to see the face when somebody sticks a good piece of meat in their mouth, and just, it's the time. It's not about the meat. It's not about the, I like to eat meat, because if you ask me, I really like chicken. But it's mainly it's that time, that relationship that, the bond goes into this thing that a lot of people likes.
Yeah, so. Which is so true. I mean, anytime you're here, it's going to be a party. There's a meat party. We call it a meeting.
Yeah, a meeting.
So there's a couple of cuts of meat that I've never had before. So picanha is one of them. So maybe share a little about the picanha, and then maybe some others that might be new cuts that people wouldn't necessarily think of.
Well, when I started learning, one of the things that I did, my brother lived in Argentina. He's a chef, and so I went there for 15 days, and I ate meat 14 days. And there's a few cuts that you don't have here, and the way that people from the United States does grilling is really different than the people from South America and those countries. So you got, in Argentina, they have the New York steak, but here you do steaks. There they cook the whole New York, piece. That's the back of the cow. And it's really slow cooked. And if you go north to Brazil, they have their special cut is picanha, which is sirloin sizzler here, which you don't find normally. Now with the Brazilian steakhouses, it's more popular. But that's a cut that I really enjoy having. When I was in Argentina, one of the big cuts that I really like, they call it the pork steak. It's and here I found out is the skirt steak. So things like that. We had ribs. It's something that in Argentina, grilling, we call asado. But for Argentinians, asado, it's the rib flanket. So it's a rib piece that is cut like a pork chop, and it's like this long and has bones and fat, little fat and meat, and little fat and meat. And that I call that cut the no ruin cut. There's almost no way to make it bad. So things like that.
Yeah. Well, it's always a good time when Galo's here to grill. So Galo, you're the director of ITEC Ecuador. You live in Ecuador. Tell us a little bit about what ITEC Ecuador is and what you're doing down there.
Well, the idea of ITEC Ecuador came a few years ago when different organizations wanted to do national centers for different ministries in different locations. And Steve had this idea, why we don't try to do a prototype? Because the concept of a training center or facility or ministry facility, it's always really hard, because if we think on the USA way of doing things, everything has to be in place, everything has to be planned, there's got to be a budget, it's got to be all these things, and until you don't have all this plan done, you don't do much. So we start 9 years ago with this idea, and one of the biggest challenges was how we can support an organization like that in a foreign country. First, it needs to be run by nationals, because if you don't have people that is willing to stay all their lives in one place, or it's just a few years commitment, how this is going to work. So a few of the areas that we have to work on was, it has to be nationals, it has to have a way to self-support, and it has to do ministry. And the fourth aspect that comes along all this is that economy is a big and important part of an operation like this. So it has to have like a business-minded way of doing things. And that's something that have helped us a lot to, in this short time, we can say short time, to be able to accomplish that. 4.5 years ago, we start on our own support, so being self-supported. Almost no support from another country, and it's been great. It's I know it was a long journey. It took 5 years to get to that point, but I think it empower us as nationals to be able to say, hey, we can do this. And now it's just great to be able to have a business operation which allow us to support the ministry operation, we can call it. So we have ministry people on board that there's a focus on what it needs to be done. One of the most important things that I saw when we started one of the businesses, which was Aviation. We're located in Shell. There's an airstrip there. Nate Saint was there. MAF base, it's there. Aviation is a really important part of Shell in the jungles area of Ecuador. So we thought, it's a good business. It's not that easy to do, but there's already operations. So we did that, and it really, it was not just the business part that fulfill with this operation. It was the ministry part, because we had the opportunity to be close to the people, to see their villages, to see their needs, to be close to them, and just to talk to them in different aspects, mainly to hear them, what are their needs, and at the same time to be able to show them that we care about them. Normally we're doing a flight, commercial flight, and then we have a call on the radio, hey, there's an emergency. We just turn around and go get it. We don't even think about, oh, this is gonna cost me more. No, we just go and get them. So we got to the point that people will trust in us in a way that if we know that it's a real emergency, if they know that it's a real emergency, we're gonna go if the weather permits. So that allow us to be closer to the people and to be able to be part of them and start a relationship. I flew for 2 years, and it was amazing to just get to know the people and get to know the places and see the real needs.
But so there's a lot there. I mean, and there's so many aspects to what you just talked about. It's a nationally led, so Ecuadorian led, and you're serving Ecuadorians there. And this idea, as you mentioned,
and non-Ecuadorians too.
Yes, but you mentioned that this was something that Steve Saint had the idea, and you've been working with Steve and ITEC now for over 20 years?
Well, I started in '99 here. I spent Y2K in this building. So it's 21 years, but I left for close to 3 years, from 2001 to 2004, to finish my aviation career, and came back in 2004 when we started working back again. So 18 years here.
It's been a while, and you've done a lot. You mentioned flying, so you're a pilot. So the business that you mentioned, you're in Shell, which is on the edge of the Amazon rainforest in Ecuador. So aviation is important because there's not highways or interstates into all of the places, and the only way to get there is flying in and out of the jungle. So you providing that transportation allows you to meet needs in a way that it's just very practical. And so it's a huge opportunity, as you said, to build relationships with local people in those communities. And so for those that might not understand or haven't visited that context, so there are communities in and around the Amazon jungle?
Yeah, Shell Mera, everybody in the missionary Christian world knows. It's in Ecuador, right in the edge of the Andes Mountains. You start in the capital, Quito is in the mountains, 9,000 feet. You go east, south, east, and you get to this beautiful place. It's called Shell. And there's an airstrip there that one of the oil companies built in the 50s. From there, more east into the Amazon jungle, there's almost no roads. Now we have more roads than used to. The last 10 years they've been building roads. So there's more places where you can get to. But we have, in the whole Amazon area, we have 210 airstrips. All different, mud, gravel, stones, grass, to asphalt. And there's people living in those communities. Every airstrip is a community. There's communities that have to walk to an airstrip. That's why we have over 350 communities in the jungles. All these communities go from 20 people to 100 people, more or less. There's just a few that have more than 100 people in the jungles. How everything gets there, food supplies, construction supplies, medicine, it's by airplane. There's been since the 50s airplane operation there that allow the people to be able to get those things in their areas. And there's many companies that have been doing this kind of work for years. Now in Shell there's just 4 companies because aviation has been going down. It's been harder and harder to do it. But that's the way how people get connected to the outside world. There's emergencies, planes go into the jungles to bring people out. They gotta go back. They gotta go in an airplane too. So now there's more ways to get into these communities through, some roads and then boats. But still, there's big areas where there's no way to get there besides an airplane.
Right, and even by boat, when we think of going down a river, we might think of a straight river, but a straight river doesn't really exist in the Amazon jungle.
Well, we have the Pastaza River, which is one of the big headquarters for the Amazon River. That one is probably the most straight one, but it's really, has rapids and it's big and it's dangerous. They've been using this river the last 8 years, and there have been a lot of accidents happening in the river. And then the other rivers are really slow and really curvy. There's places where you boat for like 30 minutes and you get across and you're in the same spot. So in 3 minutes. So it takes a long time. When we talk about going by boat, we're talking at least 8 hours and up. So it's a long ways.
So in remote areas around the world, transportation it's a huge need. And so ITEC Ecuador, it's a facility that run by Ecuadorians. They're meeting a need by flying in and out of the jungle on a regular basis.
Yes, and we're not we're not closed-minded on we do aviation. No, we have done canoes, fiberglass canoes, and one of the greatest things probably in that project was that we taught some, and this was not a project we start. Steve did this 13 years ago probably. He built a canoe in the jungles. He had a mold here and they did it over there. But there was a little things that they didn't like it, and that's something that was not transferred. But when we got involved, and I said, what happened with the fiberglass canoe? They said, well, it was too wide here and it has this thing here. And so I said, so what would you like to change it to be able, to be better for you guys? He said, if you make this more narrow here and you take this thing off and we do this. So that in that part, getting that relationship, working together, we changed the molds. And we did this canoe, and I said, so how's it working now? Oh, we like it. And there's one that we have there for the last 5 years. It's been running there, and we use it all the time. But something that was really amazing was that another indigenous group, through other missionaries and another mission agency, asked us, there's any way we can build a canoe for this group? And I said, sure, why not? And I said, but would you be okay if the Waoranis will teach them how to do it? I said, sure. So in the beginning, we had this, transcultural between indigenous groups, and they're like, oh, these are Waorani, oh, these are Achuar. But it took a couple hours for them, to kind of work themselves into this because they were interested. The Shuars were interested in the canoe, and the Waoranis, because we've been working so hard, and every time we do something, we said, would you be willing to teach? Would you be willing to teach others? Oh, sure. Will you be willing to invest in others? Sure. So I said, when we had this project, I said, this is something we've been talking. You said that you'll be willing to teach, so this is the time. So it took a couple hours, to get kind of along, and we were just watching from the distance, and they did it. The Waoranis helped these Achuar people to understand how fiberglass work and how they do it and how can they repair it and stuff like that. So that's great. That was something I really enjoyed to see.
I think one of the important things for people to understand is that when you talk about building the canoes, you're talking about flying in and out of the jungle, and you mentioned ministry, but this is a business that is set up to be able to provide these services. Mm-hmm. So you charge for the canoes, you charge for flying in and out of the jungle, and that helps you as an organization to operate. And you mentioned how the economy, the financial part plays an important role in how you guys operate. So what role does that play in missions and trying to accomplish the mission work in your local community? Just being able to provide financially.
Well, the biggest thing is that when you have a commercial operation, first you're helping the local people. We have right now over 10 people on salary. So we're being part of 10 families in our community. That's a big thing. Second, every ministry, every nonprofit organization has to have a way to support what they do, whatever they do. And normally it's, from asking money to people that cannot go but can give. Which in many cases, it's the way that is the normal operation of a ministry, of a nonprofit. But that was part of what we tried to be focused when we start ITEC Ecuador, is we need to find a way that we can self-support, and that way we won't be depending on. We don't believe in no dependency. Like we gotta be independent. No, we don't believe in that, because that's not the body of Christ. We believe in interdependency. We can work together in a way that the talents and gifts that God gave us, it's to be wise and good stewards. And the economy part it's huge. So that's why we created the 135 operation, with a commercial operation, which allow us, we're charging for flights, but at the same time, if there's emergency flights or something, we can do it for free. We cannot do everything for free, but we can do it at cost, or for free, or depends, and there's different aspects on that. Economy and ministry is huge. If an organization doesn't have the funds to do something, they just simply don't do it. For us, it's been really amazing to be able to see a need and to be part of that. Not even thinking on, okay, I'm gonna have to raise the funds for this. No, we go to our books and say, we got this much for ministry. We can do this. We try to have that idea of everything that we do as a business, at least has to go to ministry, because the other half is to operate, to grow, to fix, to maintain, and stuff like that. So economy in ministry it's big. I don't know other organizations that are non-profit that self-support themselves. I don't really know other organization, but I can say that it works. It takes, money and effort and a lot of relationship to be able to do it. And it's gotta be a business mindset. And if you have a business mindset, your ministry is gonna be better. Because in business, if it doesn't work, you just disappear. In ministry, we gotta be able to see that what we're doing is the right thing, it's being effective, that our desire and hope is that God is blessing this, but we gotta see it with that mindset, not just it will go, it will happen, and if works, good. If doesn't work, okay, that's fine. We keep having our monthly payment. No. We gotta try to see the things and the business mindset, which is hard. We're not saying it's gotta be a business, but the way that the business work, it's gotta be a little bit into ministries too, and that way we'll be more sure that it's gonna be more effective. That's what I have seen what happened in ITEC Ecuador.
Right, and as you mentioned earlier, it's been a 9-year, process. And it wasn't until about 4 years ago that it became something that was able to function on its own financially. Mm-hmm. And through the years, there's been a lot of things that have worked and some haven't worked.
Oh.
And I could think back to, you had automotive repair that was going on for a while. You've built canoes. One that's been around the whole time has been airplane manufacturing. And so the airplane is actually built in Ecuador, but sold through the U.S.
Yeah, that was a project that it started as a business mainly, and in the process, it was Steve saying and Jesse, his son, idea to be able to do these airplanes in Ecuador and just sell those here. As I said, it started as a business mainly, but through the years, we saw needs locally in Shell, and I always will ask my partners, there's any way we can help in this way? There's any way we can help the church here? There's any way we can help the Christian school? So we will agree, and we'll be a third for each, and we just do it. Now, since 6 years ago, we decide, okay, it's not going to be our business anymore, and now it's the nonprofit business. So everything that we do now on the airplane manufacturer, we build RV-10s, which is a really popular model here in the United States. It's a four-place airplane, pretty fast airplane. And a lot of people really like this airplane to just travel around long distances. It's been a good business. So now ITEC Ecuador receives all the profit from that, from all the planes that we built, and that give us the opportunity to have resources for special projects. That's how we manage it. And it's been great. And this year it's great. This year we're building 4. We have never built 4 in a year. We're trying to see if we can finish 4 this year, because the virus and stuff, things change. But we're so thankful that God has been giving us the opportunity to have this, so we can support the organization even when there's been a really rough time with this virus thing.
Right. So I love the entrepreneurial perspective. It's very creative. And another one that we haven't talked about yet is the ecotourism, the Wow Vision trip. So for those who don't know about the Waorani, if you would share a little bit about them. I know you mentioned the different tribes earlier and mentioned the Waorani. So maybe everybody doesn't know who they are, and then maybe talk a little bit about the Wow Vision trip.
Well, in Ecuador we have 7 tribes. They're the main tribes. One of them that we've been working for years is the Waoranis. Through the story, a lot of people knows about the End of the Spear movie and book, and Minkai and the 5 missionaries operation in Ecuador in the 50s. A lot of people think the Waoranis are all safe and all that, but sadly it's not the case. But there's people that know the Lord. 6-7 years ago, actually when Steve had the accident, was when we had a request from the Waoranis. They needed some help, and one of the parts of the request was, there's any way we can do something to help us with our economy. Steve have done trips in the past that will help them to be able to have some resources. So we talked about this, and we went and found a place in the jungles, really nice little lake next to the river, and we say, well, let's do it. So I said, if you build the camp and you clear the area, and we'll try to do this. They're amazing hard workers, and they did a beautiful job. The idea with the Waviation trip is that, first place, will generate economy for the Waoranis. Second, for the people that goes, it's not a mission trip. It's more a side trip where you see the difference in culture. You're gonna be immersed into this 50 years ago way of living. Besides the killing, you sleep in a hammock, the floor is sand, you bathe in the river, if you fish, you eat, if you hunt, you eat meat, if you garden, you get some yucca and bananas and some fruit. If you need a basket, you have to make it out of the, forest store. That's the trip, what the trip involves. And for us as an organization, as a link, it's mainly, for me, always I wanted to see people thinking in a different way. A lot of times we're so immersed in the daily rush day. We get up, we go to school, we go to work, we pay the bills, we go shopping, we come back, we clean, we fix something, we go to bed, and then back over and over and over. And what I like to see is when people is there, they don't even miss their phone. You cannot get phone calls. There's no internet. And people realize, well, there's a lot of things that we think that are important that are not that important. And we see things that we don't think are important that are really important. So in our side, that's what we want to see. A different vision from people that goes. And we had people from all over the world, which has been amazing to be in contact with them, and just to see that after the trip they care about this tribe that it's maybe 10,000 miles away of them, but they care about them, they are praying for them. And the biggest thing is they saw something that they don't see probably in even my culture or your culture, that when you get there, you are the most important person there. You go there, they're going to give you the best they have. They're going to care for you, they're going to take care of you, they're going to just love to have you there. And that's something that I have heard, and not just in the Waoranis, but in a lot of communities. It's like, we love to see you, because they don't have that opportunity like we have. Oh, we travel here, we go there, we see family. When they say we're going to visit our family, they got to work 3 days. And then spend a couple hours maybe in that village, and they come back for 3 days. So it's a different concept. So they love to have people there visiting and being able to serve you. That's something that it really touches me all the time is they always are willing to serve you and to give you the best, which normally is not our culture.
Yeah, when we think of short-term mission trips, as a church, going out, oftentimes there's some type of trips, planned throughout the year. We think, what can we go and do? And the Wow Vision trip, as I've gone, I've experienced it, and which I don't think there's a better way to experience the Amazon jungle. But when you go, it's not what you do. Just being there is part of the role in you going. It's the vision, it's seeing it, it's an encouragement to the Waorani, and it's really an all-inclusive jungle experience that they've set up and host for you. So it's fun.
It is. It's mainly be part of them. Hear them, see things that it makes you think why they do this. A lot of people in the groups will tell me why they are so lovely to us, why they act so, why they do all these things with so much joy. I'm like, well, they are like that. They want you to be here. And what comes to my mind is like, oh, you don't think like that in the first place. Because if you are impressed with the way that somebody it's been with you, it's because it's not part of what you are. And that's one of the many questions that I get when I get groups is why they do this with so much joy. And they see them working hard. They gotta get up early in the morning to get breakfast, and they go late to sleep, and it's not easy. The jungle life is not easy at all. The store is there, but it takes a lot of effort to get the stuff.
Yeah. Galo, you've grown up in a place I think is very unique. You mentioned the story in the 1950s. There's been books, there's been movies produced about this place in Shell Meta in Ecuador. And what so many would have thought would have suppressed missionary efforts in the 1950s really just it amplified. And a lot of missionary efforts went into this area. So you grew up in a place where there was a lot of mission work going on, and this is right on the edge of the Amazon jungle. So you working with ITEC Ecuador, you bring a lot of experience growing up in this area. You bring a lot of experience, but for somebody that's listening that is involved in mission trips through their church in some capacity, what have you learned that you might be able to pass on or encourage others when it comes to short-term mission trips?
Well, that's we have to make another show about that. But the biggest thing, and it's really, really hard even for me, for you guys, for people that are in developed countries, and it's here. It's be part of. Try to understand. Normally we have, that's what we do. It's a project. We do this kind of projects. Anything, I don't know. You can name it. But what if that's not the need? Short mission trips, I haven't been involved in too many of those. But let me tell you, for nationals, it's a lot of work. A short mission trip for the nationals, it's a big load. Because the same thing that I was telling you about the Waoranis. We want to make you feel good. We want to make you feel you're doing something that is right, that is good for us. And maybe one of the reasons is because our culture is more warm. We want to be more close, and we like to make people to feel good. But in the other aspect too is that probably we want you to come back. I don't know. It can be different cases. If there's something that I have seen over these years and growing up with ministries and seeing teams going and all that, I think there's a great opportunity for people from here to be able to see and get immersed in ministry. The mission trips, they gotta be a mission. The name of mission is not something that it's a mission. We don't see that word in the Bible first. But if we use it in the way that it was supposed to use, it's to accomplish something, to accomplish the Great Commission. If we're in the Christianity world. So it's not about what I feel that I have to do. It's about the people they are going to. There's a real need or not. Do you have the right relationship with them or no? It's just, we're going to do this. Simple things. But what about the economy? What about the God kingdom's economy? Because all the resources that we spend, it's God's kingdom money. That we are called to be good stewards. So, it's a really sensitive area. But I understand and I know that there is really good opportunities for trips like this. Maybe the name it's a short mission trip. Okay, maybe that's the name. But I think there is really good opportunities for people from here to see, what's going on and what should be the first approach. The first approach, you gotta have a relationship. If you don't know the people, if I wouldn't have the opportunity to fly into the jungles and to see the real needs, how am I gonna know? I'm just gonna think, maybe they need this, and I'm gonna do it. No, we gotta see, we gotta, have the right people connections, relationship, see the needs, and try to fulfill those needs, if we're called to do that, in a way that we're not creating harm. That's for sure. There's many ways. I always see construction. I love construction. I love to build things. And when I come to the States, it's just amazing to see. You go to Lowe's and it's like Disneyland for me. And the tools and all these pieces and stuff that you can use to build this thing is just amazing. Well, you go to Ecuador, you don't have Lowe's. The building is different. It's really hard. It's all is concrete. It's really tough work. How we expect a team from here to be able to do construction in a place where you don't have, codes and stuff like that. So I think that the key and the most important thing is to be able to see, heard, and create this relationship. And you don't do that in a week. For sure you don't do that in a week.
Yeah, it takes time. Mm-hmm. And recently you were telling me an important thing to understand as someone from the U.S. or North America is that it's very hard for somebody from another country to tell us no.
Well, that's a hard part of, what is that reality? Like I said, we really want you to feel good. We want you to come back. There's no way, other countries, not developed like this country will tell you no. You want to do a well, okay, that's good. Even if the river is next to you, just do the well. You want to paint blue, that's fine, paint it blue. However, it's not the 100% of cases, but the general way is like that. And we got to be aware of those things, because we don't want to see with our eyes, from here to the places where we're going to go. We want to see from their perspective and how we can be more effective. And for sure, and I no doubt that you guys, as the United States Church, part of the body of Christ, not the body of Christ, part of the body of Christ, you have amazing, not just resources, but just that way of supporting. Support is not just money. Support is a way of thinking. Support is, just be beside us. Support is, you can support in many ways. Not just the money part or the economical part. So, but we gotta see it from that perspective, and in that way, we're gonna be more effective for sure.
It's that interdependency.
Interdependency.
And we have a lot to learn from the body of Christ in other countries. I know, as you mentioned, the trips, we get so caught up in our day in, day out. We want to make every second count in the day, so we've got it all scheduled out. And for me, I tend to go in that direction. So when I come to someplace like Ecuador and shift gears into a Latin time, it can be challenging.
Well, when the groups come to Ecuador, the first question is, what's the plan? I said, well, the plan is going to change. So if the plan is going to change, why we need a plan? If it's going to change the plan, better not to have a plan. That's a joke that the people is like from here, like, what are you telling me? It's not the reality, but we're more concerned about the plan normally that what it needs to be done or how it needs to be done. That's something that we got, because we have our way of thinking. Everybody has their way of thinking, and like I always said, everybody has a nose. One bigger, wider, smaller. It's a nose. You breathe through it. Doesn't mean one is better than the other. But we gotta see how we're gonna do this better through their nose. How we breathe better through their nose than us. Because that's been one of the most not saying important things, but something that allow us to be able to get to this point. It's when you see people there, somebody, and Steve told me this, just because my passport is a different color, why it's gotta be a difference? But when this different color passport person gives you the opportunity to be not in power, but to be able to develop what you have, it's great. Empowering nationals, it's it's the thing right now, empowering training and all that. But in reality, how is working? How we're, how the nationals are being involved in a way that, they feel they are in that driver's seat. I think the idea is there, which is great, but we want to see that going through. I just love the idea of, this crazy concept of national driven self-support ministry goes to everywhere. I will just be. It will be more than just seeing Ecuador having the opportunity to do this. It will be more valuable to see it in another places, because we know it works. We know it, it's not easy. For sure it's not easy. You need the right people. Yes, you need it. But there's Christ followers all over the world. And there's talents and gifts in those people, because God gave it to you. Gave it to them too.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a good place to wrap up for today, Galo. So thank you for joining us today and sharing a little bit about your work, sharing about your story with grilling. And if people want to learn more about ITEC Ecuador. We'll put some links in the show notes below. And any final thoughts to be able to share with anybody as we close out?
Well, mission-minded people, there's the real need of that for sure. The work it's still out there. There's a lot more people need to know the Lord. There's different ways that you can be part of ministries. Something that I always try to share, mainly with people that wants to get into the mission field. They are trying to, get the right training for. I said, what is your mission right now? What is your mission today? What do you have done today that you will try to do with all this training or preparation for the field? So if you're not doing it today, it means you need to start today. So just that thought for people with the mission-minded, for people that is getting involved, for people that wanted to go there. Remember, the mission field is right here. Wherever you are, and with the skills that you have. For sure you know something that somebody else doesn't know. For sure your neighbor doesn't know maybe how to clean the carburetor in your lawnmower.
It's an opportunity.
Show them that you care about them, so they will care what you have to say to them.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks, Galo. Yeah, being on mission right where we are. It
Yeah.
doesn't just happen when we go somewhere.
Oh yeah.
So. Well, thanks again for joining us here, and thank you for joining us for this episode of the Mission Minded Podcast.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Mission Minded. For more information on today's topic and show notes, please visit our website, itecusa.org. Mission Minded Podcast is produced by ITEC. The goal of this podcast is to inspire conversations about Great Commission participation. The views, organizations, and individuals represented, interviewed, and discussed on the podcast do not necessarily represent an official position or formal partnerships with ITEC.